Hey everyone, welcome to the Cornerstone Family Talk podcast, a conversation designed to help people grow deep and live tall. There's no better place for people to grow than in a family. So welcome to the family. You'll find out very quickly that this is a compilation podcast. One episode you may hear an interview. The next may be a story or a testimony, or we may be diving deep into theology or church leadership. So welcome to Family Talk. Let's get started. Well, welcome to the Family Talk podcast. Today I am with my wife, Stacy, and we're going to talk about some life lessons learned over the time that we've been together now, almost 28 years. We've been married for almost 28 years. Yeah, and we have 4 kids. Yes. Of which you have homeschooled them all.
Yes. I have one left. Abby is going to be a senior this year, so that will be my last baby to homeschool, get through high school. So I'm kind of sad about the whole thing coming to an end. It's a little bittersweet. I've enjoyed all the time that I've spent with them, teaching them, watching them learn and grow, and but I'm excited about the next chapter, the next season.
Awesome. The funnest part of homeschooling is the parent-teacher conferences, right? They've been very interesting. Yeah,
those have been really good over the years.
Right, yeah. You're also a pastor's wife.
Right.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, almost as long as I've been homeschooling, or longer, maybe. Yeah. I've done many things in the church, children's ministry, outreach, missions, led worship, administrative work, whatever needs to be done. I've been able to do just about anything. Yeah.
Good. And then also the main cook at the house.
Oh, the main cook.
Yeah,
yes,
the head cook, the chef.
All these people fed for all these years as well. And we've had our seasons in that aspect as well. We probably in our early years, we started off counting calories. So everything was about low calorie. And then we kind of went low carb and everything was low carb. And now we're kind of into this new season of plant-based, whole foods, like no meat, no dairy, vegetarian style. So I'm learning to recook everything and try to meet everybody's dietary needs. That's a whole new season for me as well, but I'm embracing it, and we're learning how to make a lot of good things.
Some great stuff.
Yeah,
some good meals.
Enjoying it.
We're having one tonight, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into our topic today. We're talking about lessons learned, navigating the real world. Right. And there was a book that I read some years ago, which I just love the concept or idea. And the title of Robert Fulghum's book is All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. So it's such a great idea that the stuff that we learn in life that's really important is not in graduate school, right? It's not in college, not graduate school, but it's in kindergarten. Right. It's in the sandbox. It's in the Sunday school class. It's down low. We learned it in the early years. And if we would take those things we learned then and apply them to life now, how much better would our lives be, right?
Right. These are the fundamental things, the foundational things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, simple things like learning to share.
Right.
We learned that in kindergarten. Right. We learned that in the sandbox.
Right.
Yeah, when we're little. Or playing fair.
Right.
A good life lesson, right? Play fair. Don't hit people.
Right.
Put things back where you found them.
Exactly. Clean up after yourself.
Right.
Yes.
Clean up after yourself. Don't take things that aren't yours.
That's right.
These are easy things, but make life so much better. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody.
Right. Exactly.
Wash your hands before eating.
Right.
Flush the toilet.
Exactly. I think I still say that sometimes. Yeah.
To me or the kids? I'm not sure which one you're talking about now. Maybe take a nap every afternoon. That's something we did in kindergarten, right? You get the afternoon nap. Yeah. Maybe some milk and cookies, a little snack. It's all good.
Right.
But anyways, the whole idea are these lessons that we learned when we were young matter so much throughout life. It's not what we're learning in graduate school necessarily, but the stuff we learned when we were little, if we would do it. So he really talks in this book about living a balanced life and learning the golden rule and to love other people and take care of other people And so very interesting book, a great idea. And so the idea here we're talking about, we've been married for almost 30 years, right? We've learned a few things over the years, maybe some good life lessons that we could talk about that might be beneficial, things that are on the bottom shelf, not on the top shelf, easy to reach, maybe easy to reach, harder to do, but nonetheless very important.
Again, the foundational things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into our first one.
All right.
Is don't do anything stupid. I know you don't like the word stupid.
I don't. The kids were not allowed to say that when they were growing up. So I don't like it, but I feel like that's a word everybody knows what that means.
Right.
Yeah. So we can use it here.
Yeah. Okay. So number one is don't do anything stupid. Lee Anderson wrote a book on leadership that works. This is one of his principles for leadership, but I think this is a principle of life. Don't do anything stupid. And this is what he says about it. He says, I can't think of a more tactful way to say this. Don't do anything stupid. Don't join a very long list of proven and potential leaders who did not finish well because they said or did something stupid and otherwise inconsistent with everything they had believed and taught. The temptation comes in different forms for different leaders, but the top three have always been money, sex, and power. Do whatever you need to do to avoid stupidity in these and other areas of weakness. Form accountability group, get counseling, seek treatment, whatever, but don't do anything stupid if you want to finish well. What great advice.
Right, exactly. And I think another thing that we taught our kids was, don't make big, important decisions when you're feeling, down or sad or your emotions are kind of out of balance. Again, you'll just end up making a decision that you probably regret later. You need to make those decisions when you're thinking straight and better able to make those decisions when you're thinking clearly.
Don't do anything stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also on decisions, I'll just keep going here, is one thing that, that we've always talked about is just pre-deciding some things in life. So if we go ahead and we've decided, hey, we're going to have Jesus at the center of our lives. We're going to go ahead. We're going to be generous people. We're going to be involved and serve at church. These are just some basic things that we pre-decide. We pre-decide that we're going to be, faithful in our closest relationships. We, pre-decide that we're going to take care of our bodies and eat healthy and live well. All things that we pre-decide. So that way, when, the temptations and the things come up in life where we have the opportunity to make a stupid decision, we've already pre-decided what our boundaries are. We've already pre-decided, where our guidelines are. And that way it helps keep us, from making a wrong decision and making a mistake or a stupid choice, for lack of a better word. But pre-decide those things.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then we have a verse that goes with this.
Yes, one of my favorites.
Yeah, Proverbs chapter 2, verses 10 and 11 says, For wisdom will enter your heart and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you. Understanding will keep you safe.
Yeah, my favorite.
Yeah,
wise choices will watch over you.
Yeah, how many times do we say that?
Protecting you and keeping you safe. So I think we just avoid a lot of bad consequences if we can just make wise choices, good choices. Understanding will keep us safe. So I think, following after God, following after, his character and who he is and bringing that into your home and into your life and into your family, that kind of understanding is going to keep you safe. It's going to keep your family, in a good place, making good decisions, wise choices, and when you get kids involved, there's 1,000 choices a day. What are you going to do, when they behave like this? What are you going to do when this happens? What are you going to do when they're faced with this situation? And, in your marriage, in your parenting, when your closest family relationships, what you eat, what you wear. I mean, all of those things, all of those decisions, I think we need to pre-decide what our boundaries are, where our guidelines lay, and then we'll be able to make good choices.
Wise decisions.
Wise decisions.
Don't do
yes.
anything stupid. Good advice
That's
right
right.
there. Don't do anything stupid. How about this one? Number 2, take responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
Man, we live in a culture that does not want to take responsibility for their life.
Right. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a hard one for a lot of people.
Yeah, we live in the day and age when people don't want to take responsibility for life. So this idea came from my grandpa when I graduated from the Ohio State University many years ago.
Oh, go Bucks.
Yeah, go Bucks. On graduation day, he, in congratulating me, told me, he said, your parents have given you everything you need to succeed in life. And if you don't, it's your fault.
Oh, wow.
I said, thanks, Grandpa. Thank you for that advice. But it was good advice because basically he was saying, take responsibility for your life. You've been given certain things. Now take what you've been given, use them wisely, take responsibility, and go do something with it.
Right.
Don't waste it. Don't squander it.
Right.
Take responsibility.
Right. And don't blame somebody else when things don't go well.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And again, if you've pre-decided some things are going to go a little bit better for you. You're going to be able to make some wise choices, take that responsibility because, you've already set yourself on a good path.
Right. Wise choices. Take responsibility for your life.
That's right.
We've got a verse with this, 2 Peter 1:3. His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and goodness. So the idea even goes into God, not just our physical families, but our spiritual family. God has given us everything we need for life and for godliness. And we need to take responsibility for our actions, lean into him, lean into his grace, and allow him to work on our lives and let him do what he wants to do in our lives.
That's right. That's good. Yeah.
All right, let's go to number 3.
Okay.
We're working our way through them.
We're working.
All right, number 3. The 3 most important words in any relationship.
What are they?
Yeah, what are they?
Please, thanks, and sorry.
Yeah, 3 important words.
Again, foundational.
Bottom shelf, right?
That's right.
Learned these in
That's
kindergarten.
Right.
Yeah, so Richard Sharp, a missionary that comes to Cornerstone frequently and has a great ministry overseas and stuff, he comes and he speaks, and one of the things he says is the 3 most important words in any relationship are these 3.
Right.
And how easy it is to forget to use them.
Exactly.
Especially with the people that we're closest to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get
Good
too
reminder.
busy, right? We get too busy, which is, hey, can you get me that? Can you do that? And we're not using please. We're not saying thank you.
Right.
We're not being kind and courteous. How about it's good to say please, good to say thank you. Those are maybe a little bit easier than the word sorry.
Oh,
that's the hard one. It doesn't taste good, right?
Yeah.
Who wants to say sorry?
And it's a hard thing to teach your children as well, So when you've got 6 people, in a house and there's going to be a lot of times where there's going to need to be a please or a thank you and a sorry. And sorry was always the hardest one.
Hardest, yeah.
Say sorry to your brother. Say sorry to your sister, and then I think, as adults, we struggle with that too, So yeah, sorry's been the hardest one.
That pride issue, isn't it? It's hard.
It is. But again, it's foundational. And I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves about what is at the core of who we are, what is at the core of our family. And it's okay to go back, and revisit those things and remind yourself and just kind of lay that foundation, again, if you need to.
Yeah. I think something happens in us when we say sorry, a breaking of the pride in a sense, an admittance that goes with it that I was wrong, I did wrong, please forgive me. It's more the sorry. Sometimes it was not just sorry, but will you forgive me for what I did?
Exactly.
Asking for that forgiveness that's needed to go along with that, but not easy words to say, but so important and transformational in a relationship, especially our closest relationships.
Right. Yeah, it kind of, what we like to say sometimes is that unselfishness, in a relationship will go a long way, So I think when we, like you said, the pride thing, we lay that down, we're just, it's a very unselfish, kind of act when we say, we're sorry. We're thinking about the other person, we're coming to them, in a very humble, in a humble way. And I think, like you said, that goes a long way.
Yeah. So as we go through our day, we should be thinking, who do I need to say please to? Who do I need to say thank you to? Who do I need to say sorry to? Right, and get all that
that's right. That's right.
All right, we got a scripture to go with this here. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Ephesians 4:32 says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you."
That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, number 4.
All right.
Let's talk about never stop listening, never stop loving. This is a hard one. So there have been times that we've been in conflict, maybe with each other.
Sure, sometimes.
Maybe with other people that we work with. And the conflict has become so full, just
right. There's a lot of emotions wrapped
a lot
up
of emotions
into it.
Right. And you're never going to reach an agreement, right? You just know there's no agreement that's going to be made on this because we just see things very differently. That I've had to tell somebody, hey, I'll never stop listening to you. I'll never stop loving you. We may not agree. We may never agree on this, but I will never stop listening to you. I will never stop loving you. And something happens, I think, when we can say those things, when we can do those things. Like, hey, no matter how much we're going to disagree, we're never going to see eye to eye on this, but I'm never going to stop loving you. I'm never going to stop listening to you and hearing your point of view, your thoughts, where you're coming from, but we may just never agree on that. And I think something happens in some of our most difficult relationships when we take that approach.
Right. Again, it's another one of those pre-decisions, right? You decide that these relationships are important and you want to keep them. I mean, how many times do we, talk with people who no longer have a relationship with their mother or father, or no longer have a relationship with a sibling or another family member because of a disagreement, because they don't see eye to eye on something. And so they've completely broken off the relationship. So I think that it's much healthier, for us, and we can maintain some of those most vital relationships, the ones that, that we should have in our lives for support and encouragements, the ones that God gave us. We can hold on to those if we can agree to love each other through just disagreements, and teaching that to our families and teaching that to our children, because they're going to run into situations where they don't agree with people out in the world, and we need to model that and show them how they maintain those relationships even though they don't agree. So I think it's another one of those pre-decisions that we need to make, that will continue to love the people around us that we don't agree with.
Yeah. And I think that's really when we do grow in love, when we're put in those positions. We're not going to ever agree, but we keep loving, we keep learning, we keep listening to them. And it helps us. James chapter 1, verse 19, going with this point is, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Kind of the key here, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. What a great process that James lays out for us. We never stop listening, never stop loving. Yeah. It's important. All right, how about this one? You would take this one. How about don't be afraid to discipline your kids? What's going on here?
Yeah. So there was a long time ago, Zach's 25 now, so he was a baby. I was a new mom, and I ran to his every cry, I didn't want him to cry, was, desperately trying to get him to stop crying one time when I was, changing his diaper or something like that at a friend's house. And this man came over, he's an older man, grandpa, of sorts. He loved our family, and he told me, it's okay for him to cry. It's not going to hurt him to cry. And then he just kind of left it hanging there, just as he kind of would sometimes. He just kind of walked away. And at the moment, it really didn't. I just, continued to do what I was doing to try to, get him to stop crying. But, then later we thought about it. And I even think that we've thought about it more as we've, have been raising our children. But that in the process of, of crying, and the process of children being unhappy or not satisfied with things, they learn, they learn to self-soothe. They learn to, kind of get through that, or what we like to say, struggle well through a situation when they're having difficulty in something. A lot of times we like to come to their rescue, but it's not always a good thing to come to their rescue. Sometimes they need to go through something, and they need to struggle through it, so that they kind of gain that experience, because life is going to be full of struggles. Children need to learn how to get through those types of things in a safe environment at home. But I think a lot of times today, we're not doing that. We're making sure that, they don't ever cry. We're making sure that they get everything that they need. We're making sure that they don't ever want for anything. But it's a good thing that they want for things. It's a good thing that they cry and have struggles, because then they learn how to deal with it. They learn how to deal with disappointment. And there's no better place to learn that than at home, because I tell you what, if these kids learn this when they get out in the world and it's their first time really struggling through disappointment, that's going to be a real struggle, because if they're not at home and they're not surrounded by a group of people that are loving them and encouraging them through this disappointment, the struggle is going to be way worse than it would have been at home. So I'm saying, discipline your kids, let them struggle, let them be able to go through consequences, and struggle through that. Learn how to deal with disappointment, because I think it's gonna develop them, into those adults who are able to handle that, because life is gonna hand them a lot of disappointments.
Yeah.
And you want them to be prepared.
Yeah.
So there's no better place to prepare for that than in a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Don and Joan Hughes,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Longtime members of the
yes.
church that we pastored in Ohio. Don,
Yeah,
great guy,
yeah.
did prison ministry and a lot of evangelism
Yeah,
stuff. And he would
yeah.
just lay a sentence out on you and
Right.
just leave it hanging there for
Right.
you to figure out, what did he mean by
Right,
that?
right.
It's okay for a child to cry, and
Right.
kind of turn on that for a while and think on that.
And then it even just kind of grew
Yeah.
on us over the years. I still think even probably in those first few years, we didn't really understand what that meant. But
Right.
it really has come to full meaning,
Yeah.
and we really understand what he meant,
Right.
by that.
And of
So-
course, if your child's crying because they need their diaper changed,
Right,
or they're
right. Take care
hungry,
of
or
their
they're not
needs.
feeling well,
Absolutely.
that's not what he was talking about. We feel
absolutely.
like he was saying, like, because they're crying because they're not getting what they want.
Right.
Crying would not hurt them.
Right.
It was okay for them to
Right.
cry. And you get this
Right.
realization as a parent, oh, it's okay for my child to
Right.
cry. Sometimes it's good for them to cry
Right.
because they're not getting what they want. They need, as you were
Right.
saying, they need to learn
Right.
how to deal
Right.
with the disappointment, deal with not
Right.
getting whatever they
Right.
want. And if they don't learn that when they're young, it becomes much
Right.
harder when they get older.
Right.
As you mentioned, self-soothing, or learning how to deal with that
Right.
internally and still put on a happy face. And sometimes that we did with our kids, right? If they were
Right.
pouting because of something, like, you can
Right.
go up and do that in your bedroom
Right.
as long as you want, but you can come back down when you find your happy face. When
Right.
you're ready to put the smile back on,
Exactly.
come back down, join us. But if you're just going to pout, you can do that in your room by yourself.
Right. And I think we're also dealing with selfish attitudes,
Mm-hmm.
which we know, which we've already talked about, continue on into our adult life.
Who, me?
Right.
I mean, I have selfish attitudes.
Right. So we're dealing with that early, because really dealing with selfish attitudes is like a lifelong process, because we struggle to say sorry, still
Yeah.
even as adults. But that's really what we're dealing with when they're a child. So just imagine how out of control it will be if you don't have that foundational experience of having to control your selfish attitude when you don't get what you want.
Right.
So it's better to kind of start early and help them work on that. And as a parent, you work on it too. Because, when you're in a family like that, you can't be selfish either. We learned a lot of, at times that, we couldn't be selfish when it came to, all the kids. Their needs come first, and so there's a lot of that going on in a family. So
Yeah.
it's important to
There's
learn
been
that
two
lesson.
ways to describe parenting in this modern time. One is you got the helicopter parents,
Right.
Helicopter
right.
moms or dads that are just hovering over their kid every second of the day, just in case they would fall and hurt themselves.
Right.
And then you have the lawnmower parents, right? Lawnmower mom and the idea is that you're going ahead of your kids, mowing down all
Any
the obstacles so they don't
right.
have any difficulty in life, right? When they're
Right.
younger. And that's just not
Right.
healthy. They need to
Right.
encounter
That's right.
difficulties, struggles, and learn how to struggle well and get through
Right.
them.
That's right.
Yeah, it's healthy and it's good for us. And we miss some of
Yeah.
that in this younger
Yeah.
generation, not
Yeah.
having some of that difficulty to
Right.
get through.
Right.
So, yeah. All right, so let's go to number 6. learn from the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
Learn from the mistakes of others. Here's the thing that I've always enjoyed doing is learning from the mistakes of others. I have an older brother who made mistakes. We all make mistakes, but he made mistakes, and I could learn from them so that I didn't make the same mistakes.
Right.
Or we have parents, we get to see how they parented, what worked in their marriage or didn't work, and learn from them the good things and the bad things. And so we can hopefully do it better, learning from the mistakes of others. And the idea is we don't have enough time to make all the mistakes ourselves. I don't want to make all the mistakes.
No,
I don't like making mistakes, period. So if I can learn from the mistakes of others and let them make them and me learn from them, then I feel like it's just saving me the hassle of learning them through experience.
That's right. That's right. That's always good. And you and I have always read books and, and tried to seek out resources for, different situations that we were facing, because we don't want to just try to start making decisions and just hope that we make the right one. We want to glean from the experience of other people who have been in that situation, who have, gone through those things, maybe made some mistakes or made some good choices, and lay out those, those things, and we can gain from their, experience. And so I think, over the years, as we've encountered different situations in parenting or, in our marriage, or, we've been able to glean from other resources and other people. We don't ever just try to, wing it and hope that it works out. We like to make decisions based on knowledge and information and wisdom, and we pray about it, and we seek the scripture and the word on that, and try to gain all that understanding that we talked about earlier, that wisdom and understanding that kind of watches over us and keeps us safe. So that's kind of what we want to go back to.
I mean, who wants to reinvent the wheel, right? I don't. No. Somebody else has the wheel invented. Right. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 11 says, "These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of the ages has come." So even Paul talked about how he looked back on the Old Testament, in a sense, those scriptures, and learned from their example. And so it's about learning from the mistakes of others. All right, let's go to our last one, the seventh one and final one. It's easier to get in than to get out. Not always true, but true in many cases. So take us into this one.
Right. A lot of times, we think about, starting into something, getting into something, and then we realize that that it is harder to stop that because now it's become a habit, right? One of the things that I love to use as an example is, is gaining weight, over the years, and having 4 children. I've had my ups and downs of sizes of, clothes and weight, and I've always said it's easier to put it on than it is to take it off, so sometimes you have to kind of think about that ahead of time and just be careful not to put it on, to begin with, or, in habits of, what we watch, or how we talk, our attitude. It's easier to kind of give into those things than it is to kind of discipline yourself to get out of those things. Sometimes relationships. We've talked to many people who've gotten into just a wrong relationship. They knew it was wrong, in the beginning or shortly after they got into it, but they stayed. And sometimes it's harder to get out of that, and it takes more work and more effort, to get out, and it's more of a struggle. You think about guys, I know that guys can get into, watching pornography, and that's easier to do than it is to stop. Habits like smoking or drinking or, doing drugs. We all kind of know that, how that goes. So again, I want to go all the way back to that pre-decide, idea that I was talking about. And if you set those boundaries and those things up in your life ahead of time, or maybe you just do it right now. Maybe you're in some bad situations and struggling through some things, decide right now what those boundaries are going to be, and then do your best to get yourself into those boundaries, and then stay in those boundaries in that area of of discipline, so that you can do those things in life that that are healthy for you, for the people around you, for the people that you love, for the people that love you, your closest relationships. It's easier to get in than it is to get out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a life principle, almost a law of life. It's
Right.
easier to get into debt than out of debt.
Yeah,
It's
debt.
easier
Yeah,
to
that's
gain
another one.
weight than to lose weight.
Yeah.
You think about anything that we do, we should give that some thought. Once I start this, how
Right.
hard will it be for me to stop
Right.
this or to get out of this?
Right.
Like you said, a relationship or any kind of habit.
Eating habits,
Yeah.
as we've over the last year gone into this, new whole food plant-based eating, it is, it's easier to, to maybe eat something quick and drive through and, eat something,
Right.
It's harder. It takes a little more time, to purposefully think out, the menu and the plan, to eat better, but it's worth it in the long run.
Right.
It's easier to stay healthy than it is to struggle, with, sicknesses and and other things, and going to the doctor and taking up all that time, and you just feel better, you feel healthier, you're able to do more things. So I think it's a good thing to just kind of pre-decide,
Yeah.
that you're going to live.
We both have family
eat
members
well.
on each side that got into drugs and alcohol
That's
at
right.
early ages,
Right.
13 or younger, and got addicted, never got out, ended
Right.
up overdosing and dying.
Right. That's
And
right.
for so many things, it's easier to get in than to get out,
Right.
and to be able to give some serious thought about what I'm starting here. Is this a good thing or not a
Right.
good thing? And if I want to
Right.
get out, how hard is it going to be for me to
Right.
get out of this? Sometimes it's just better off not to start than to have to try and figure out a way to stop. It's a good life lesson.
And if you're struggling with something like that, talk to somebody about it.
Right.
Ask for wisdom and advice. Like you said, it's the point before this one was learn from others, right? Ask someone. There's a lot of people out there that have struggled through some things, and find someone that that you can talk to, and and have them help you and encourage you, and give you some some ideas about the decisions that you're facing. Yeah.
That's good. All right. Well, that's all we have for today, but we're just talking about some lessons learned and navigating life. And so hopefully you guys have enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for joining us today on Family Talk. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Family Talk. You can stay up to date on our family conversations by subscribing. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or on TikTok. All those links can be found in the show notes. You can also hit the share button and share this episode on social or with someone that you love. And finally, dropping a rating and telling us what you think of this episode will help spread our conversations. Thank you for being a part of our family here at Family Talk. We'll see you next time.